Hi everybody, we're back here in the best community in Texas, El Paso, Texas, what I call affectionately God's country. And every day I'm so thankful that I wake up here and call our great town home. And it has been an absolute honor to represent you in Austin, Texas for these years, because this community is the best. And I truly believe that. And I think so many El Pasoans are beginning to believe it now. We're going to talk today about a real exciting program called Ganas. And Ganas in Spanish means with enthusiasm. Let's get it going. And I've got here today a special guest, Melissa Barba-Espinosa, who is with the Isleta Independent School District, who has done such terrific work on this program. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about you, because really in El Paso, it all depends on the people, on the person making things work. And so often we have unsung heroes and sheroes, of which you're one, who really get amazing things done. You go look at the YWCA, biggest in the country. You look at the Isleta Independent School District, the envy of the nation when it comes to certain programs. I mean, everyone in education knows that Isleta is this top-notch school district. So,
Absolutely.
How did you get from where you came from to where you are? How did you become the coordinator for so many great things at Isleta? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I was born and raised in El Paso, and proudly so. I went to high school at Loretto Academy. I went to college in San Antonio. And
how did you get to San Antonio? So many of the high school graduates that I talk to, and I always try and say, let's stay in El Paso, let's get going. But truthfully, it's probably a better thing to get the world experience that you can. So a lot of our kids end up at UTSA or Incarnate, or they end up at St. Mary's. How did you get to San Antonio?
well, partly on a scholarship for cross country and academic also. But I just love San Antonio. I think it mirrors so much of the beauty of El Paso, and the people are so warm, and it's just a lovely place to live. So
I go to San Antonio 4 or 5 times a year. They get me down there to give speeches and programs and be involved in things. And I tell them, you got the second best community in Texas. Congratulations.
Yeah.
We always talk about San Antonio, but really, this is the town of the future. And that's why so many neat things are happening in El Paso. When I talk to folks from San Antonio, they've got a great political team. Their mayor's like 32 years old, Mayor Castro, and they've got a really dynamic House delegation there. And I say, someday you really will be the gateway to Mexico, but tell you, work on it a little bit more, look to El Paso for those lessons. I mean, we're right here with the wonderful generations and centuries of relationship with Mexico.
Absolutely.
But San Antonio's always talking about, well, we're Mexico, but they're 250 miles from the border. Let's talk, so you went to college, and you went to Incarnate, I think, in San Antonio, and you ran track, and then how did you get your professional career going where you kind of knew where you wanted to go?
Well, actually, there was a female professor there, Maria Gonzalez, who was an art history professor, and I took her class, and she taught the history of Mexico, and I loved it so much, and so that's what led me to my graduate career at CU Boulder, and I studied art history.
You went to you got a degree in art history up in Colorado.
I did.
So you went from San Antonio over to Colorado.
To Boulder,
and
Colorado.
Why did you pick that art history program? Why not, say, New Mexico State or California or UTEP or something? Does UTEP offer an art history master's?
I think they're about to offer a bachelor's of art in it, but at this time they don't have one.
I see.
So.
And when you're doing art history, what do you do? I mean, do you look at photographs and study famous painters? Do you look at what they use to paint? What do you do in art history?
A little bit. You study the history of art through different cultures, through different eyes. I particularly like to study contemporary art, and actually my thesis really focused on the protest art coming out of the Juarez murder. So it says sort of some of the traditional canonical Renaissance, as well as things that are more sort of current and present in our lives. So I think it's just an array of crossing different disciplines and cultures. And
when you mentioned the art coming out of the Juarez, the unbelievable tragedies that were occurring in Juarez and still are today, the art that was coming from the hearts of especially those mothers. You remember the crosses, the purple crosses that were at New Mexico State?
Absolutely.
And the almost reverence that art brings to people when they think about what's happening. That was amazing, and still is amazing what came out of that era, and so many wonderful, great sheroes in what happened. What is Esther Chavez-Cano, who you probably ran into?
Mm-hmm.
She is one of my sheroes and will be for the work that she did. But let's get, because we need to talk about this wonderful program, which is Ghana. So we've got you out of your master's program. You now have a master's in fine art history. And so how do you end up at Isleta, and what do you do? What's your job there?
Well, I began working at the El Paso Museum of Art downtown as the assistant education curator, and this opportunity came up, and I was very familiar with the fine arts program at Isleta. That a large part, in terms of the visual arts specifically, was with Lupe Casillas-Lowenberg, who is this phenomenal woman that represented not only Isleta but the El Paso community, and she had the Isleta Arts Alive program, and I was really fascinated by the work that she had done. She was such a hard worker, and so dedicated to the kids in our community and bringing the arts and culture, bringing opportunities to kids that maybe otherwise wouldn't have them. So I had heard that there was an opening, and I applied, and and it worked out, and I feel really blessed to be there and in that community. And the Lower Valley is so wonderful and charming, and
it really is, and that facility is just top-notch.
Absolutely.
I don't know of a school district anywhere in the country that has that focus on art the way Isleta does, and art has been so important to the evolution of the Chicano movement, what happened in Mexico from the late 1800s till now, Diego Rivera, the famous muralist of Mexico. And that whole dynamic is so well represented at Isleta. I'd love it, and what Lupe did there was really pioneering.
Absolutely, she did.
Well, way back when, this is probably before you got on there, Lupe and I got together on something called Paseño Art in Austin. And so we started rolling out this program where the students would take amazing photographs, and we'd take them down to Austin, and they'd be displayed in all the offices in Austin as part of a permanent collection. So you walk into the Lieutenant Governor's office and you'll see El Paso there, taken by an Isleta student. And so this program evolved a little bit, and we decided, how can we get and make it so that thousands more students can have an entry-level experience in visual art? What can we do in this great community that has so many nationally significant programs to take what started out as kind of a wonderful but small program, maybe 300 of these great photographs, and really get a chance, a hope for so many thousands more kids to participate in it? And I think that's how you got involved in Ganas, and that's how, as an anchor member helping shape the idea, we started talking about how do we combine technology, writing, and participation by many, many more people. So that program actually became Ganas. Share with the audience how it works and what your hopes and dreams are about Ganas, and then we'll talk about what's going to happen this year.
Okay, well, maybe I'll say, to start with, when I started with the school district, actually the Paseño Art in Austin, the last one that we had was up in the gallery, so I had the opportunity to see it, and I definitely was very familiar with the program. And now we sort of had meetings thereafter, and you were interested in growing the program and including the whole county, although the county was involved at first, but to really get the word out and to make it as teacher-friendly and as user-friendly as possible. So that was the main focus of our conversation. In the past with the Paseño Art in Austin, our teachers typically were the ones who had to print the work out and also mat the work. And as many of our visual arts teachers know, it's contest season, so it's a lot of work for them, but they do it, and they're hard workers, and they'll do anything to promote their students and our community. So when we sort of began having conversations about Ganas, the goal was to have as many students participate as possible. I think the focus was also to get students to really, in their own way, articulate what they loved about our community, what they loved about their family. I mean, what was